Ever feel like the equal sign, that trusty little symbol from our school days, might be, I don't know, a bit limiting?
Limiting.
Yeah, like it doesn't quite capture the full picture of how things actually work.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Get ready to have your mind blown,
Yeah.
because today we're diving deep into a paper that throws out the equal sign and asks, what if there's a more fundamental way to understand how things interact?
A universal language for change itself.
Exactly.
Ambitious. Tell me more.
Well, these authors, Alexander Ngu and Amaya Odilon Kosso, they propose that to really grasp the complexity of the universe, we need to move beyond these simple equations, beyond just saying A equals B.
So what do they suggest instead?
They introduce this really intriguing concept of transformation.
Transformation.
Yeah. Think of it as a way of describing not just how things are the same, but how they can dynamically become something else entirely.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but my brain needs a concrete example here.
Okay, how about this? Imagine a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly.
All right, caterpillar to butterfly. Got it.
They're completely different, right, in form and function. But that process of metamorphosis, that's a powerful example of transformation in action.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So instead of simply saying, what? Caterpillar equals butterfly, we're talking about the dynamic process of how one transforms into the other.
Precisely. And the authors take this idea even further, arguing that this concept of transformation, this understanding of how things change and interact, is at the very heart of intelligence itself.
Hold on, we're going from caterpillars and butterflies to redefining intelligence. This is why I love a good deep dive. Tell me more.
They argue that this isn't just some abstract idea. It has the potential to revolutionize how we understand fields like computer science and even the very fabric of reality itself.
Okay, now you're just teasing me. Break it down for us. How does transformation relate to something as complex as intelligence?
Well, think about it. Intelligence isn't just about knowing facts. It's about understanding relationships, adapting to new information, and even predicting future outcomes.
And what is that if not a constant process of transformation?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see it. But how do they actually define transformation in a concrete way? Did they give us a formula or something?
They do. And it's surprisingly elegant. They break down transformation into two key components, transformation types and transformation parameters.
Okay, those sound intriguing, but also a little intimidating. Walk us through it.
Okay, so think of transformation types as the different categories or flavors of change. For example, growth could be a transformation type,
Okay.
or movement, or even something more complex like evolution. It's about identifying the fundamental nature of the change that's happening.
All right, so that's the what of the transformation. What about the how? Where do these transformation parameters come in?
Good question. Think of transformation parameters as the drivers or ingredients of that change. So for our growth example, the transformation parameters might be things like nutrients, sunlight, or even time. They're the specific factors that influence how something grows and what it becomes.
So, in essence, every transformation, every interaction in the universe can be understood as a specific type of change with its own unique set of drivers or ingredients.
Exactly. And the authors argue that by understanding these transformation types and parameters, by decoding this language of change, we can unlock a deeper understanding of not only intelligence, but potentially the universe itself.
All right, now we're getting to the good stuff. So, how does this actually play out? Give me an example of how this transformation model works in action.
Okay, let's take a simple example they use in the paper. The transformation of a square into a rectangle.
Okay, I'm visualizing it. Two shapes, both with four sides, but definitely distinct.
Exactly. Now, in this case, the transformation type would be shape change, right?
Yeah.
We're literally altering the shape of the object.
Makes sense. So what are the transformation parameters here? What's driving that shift from square to rectangle?
In this case, the transformation parameters would be the length and width of the shapes. By manipulating those two parameters, by stretching the square in one direction, we transform it into a rectangle.
Okay, I see it. So by adjusting those parameters, those ingredients of change, we can create an entirely different shape, a new outcome.
Precisely. And while this is a simple example, the authors argue that this same principle, this interplay between transformation types and parameters, can be applied to understand much more complex systems, from biological evolution to the development of artificial intelligence.
This is already blowing my mind and we're just getting started. So we've got this intriguing idea of transformation as the foundation, but how do we actually apply it to something as complex as, say, human intelligence, let alone the entire universe? Don't leave us hanging. That's where things get really interesting. Remember how we were talking about transformation types and
Right?
parameters?
The what and the how of change.
Exactly. Well, the authors propose this really powerful symbol to represent this whole concept, to kind of encapsulate this very essence of transformation.
Okay, hit me with it. Okay,
Okay.
I'll be honest. When I first saw that in the paper, my brain did a little glitch. It's like a secret code or something.
It's simpler than it looks, I promise. Each symbol represents a key element of transformation.
Okay, I'm ready to be initiated.
All right, so first we have that triangle, Neri. That represents the starting point, the initial state of a system. But the key here is that it's not just any starting point. It represents a starting point with inherent complexity.
Inherent complexity. So not just a simple A, but something with layers, with its own internal dynamics going on.
You got it. And to stick with our earlier example, think of it like the caterpillar.
Okay, I'm picturing that little caterpillar munching on a leaf, totally unaware of all the transformation in its future. So what's next in this little symbolic journey?
Next, we have Unira, the infinity symbol, right in the middle.
Okay, infinity. I'm intrigued. What does that represent?
This represents the infinite potential for transformation, the boundless possibilities, the vastness of change that something can undergo.
Infinite possibilities. That's a pretty big concept to wrap my head around. So it's like our caterpillar can transform into a butterfly, but it could also, theoretically, transform into countless other forms given the right, what were they called, transformation parameters.
Exactly. Different conditions, different parameters, different possibilities.
So we've got the starting point, the potential for change. What's the final piece of the puzzle? What's that circle all about?
Ah, yes, the circle. This represents the final state, the outcome of all that transformation.
So after all that infinite potential, the circle represents where things actually land. It signifies that result of navigating all those possibilities.
Exactly. It's the butterfly emerging from its cocoon, totally transformed. But here's the thing, just like the triangle, the circle also represents a state of complexity. It's not just a simple endpoint.
So area is like a shorthand for this whole journey of transformation. We start with a certain complexity. We've got infinite possibilities for how that complexity might change. And then we end up with a new, potentially very different form of complexity. Did I get that right?
You got it. It's a way of representing any process of change in its most fundamental form. And the authors argue that intelligence, in its many forms, boils down to this:
Yeah.
the ability to understand and navigate these transformations, to speak the language of yes.
Wow. So we've gone from questioning the equal sign to potentially decoding the language of the universe. This is some next level stuff. But how does this actually play out in, the real world? What are the practical implications of all this?
Well, the implications are huge, potentially touching everything from artificial intelligence to, as you said, our understanding of the cosmos. Where should we start?
Let's start with AI. It's on everyone's mind these days. How does this whole transformation idea change the game when it comes to building smarter machines? So we've been on this incredible journey exploring transformation as this really fundamental concept, but how does it actually, trickle down and impact our everyday lives? What are the real world applications of all this?
Well, one of the most interesting things they talk about is this idea of a general language model, or GLM. It really gets at the heart of how we communicate and interact with the world around us.
Okay, GLM.
hmm
That sounds intriguing, but also a tad familiar.
Yeah.
How is this different from those large language models we hear about constantly, the ones that are powering all those AI chatbots? Are we talking about something totally different here?
That's a really good question, and it's definitely a distinction worth making. You see, those large language models, as impressive as they operate on a fundamentally different principle. They're essentially masters of pattern recognition, analyzing tons and tons of data to, identify trends and predict future outcomes.
Which explains why they can sometimes sound a bit robotic or even nonsensical, right? Like they're mimicking patterns without really grasping the underlying meaning.
Exactly. They're powerful tools for sure, but they kind of lack that deeper understanding, that ability to really, truly grasp the nuances of language and the world those words represent.
Okay, so where does this proposed GLM come in? How does it address that limitation?
Well, remember our whole discussion about a shifar, or that symbolic representation of transformation.
How could I forget? It's been stuck in my head all day. That triangle infinity circle combo is really something.
Right. Well, the authors suggest that this GLM would basically be built upon that very language, that fundamental understanding of transformation. So instead of just relying solely on data, it would have this innate framework for actually comprehending how things interact and change.
So it's like instead of just giving AI a massive dictionary and hoping for the best, we're equipping it with like a fundamental understanding of the universe's operating system, right?
That's a fantastic way to put it. And the implications of that are, well, they're pretty mind-blowing if you really think about it. Imagine a world where AI can not only analyze data, but truly deeply understand it, where it can reason, problem solve, and even create in ways that, mimic or perhaps even surpass our own capabilities.
Okay, this is getting me excited. Give me some concrete examples. How would this GLM actually play out in the real world?
All right, well, how about this? Let's take something like medical research. Imagine a GLM-powered AI that can analyze all that complex biological data, but not just to identify patterns. It could actually understand the underlying mechanisms of a disease to predict how different treatments might impact those transformations at like a cellular level.
Whoa. So we're talking about like accelerating medical breakthroughs, potentially finding cures for diseases that have baffled us for, I don't know, centuries?
Exactly. Or let's think about climate change, which is obviously a huge challenge we're facing right now. A GLM could analyze climate models, not just to predict future scenarios, but to identify those, those leverage points, those key parameters we could potentially manipulate to like mitigate the most catastrophic
So
impacts.
instead of just reacting to climate change, we'd have the tools to proactively steer it in a more positive direction.
Precisely. And it goes beyond even those monumental challenges. Imagine a GLM being used to personalize education, to actually tailor learning to an individual's unique way of thinking and processing information. Or think about art and creative expression, tapping into those infinite possibilities represented by the IDI to develop whole new forms of art and creativity.
It's like opening up this whole new universe of possibilities, not just for AI, but for humanity as a whole, right? What we thought was just about questioning the equal sign has led us to rethink the very fabric of how we understand and interact with the world.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? And that's the beauty of this paper. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes it's the simplest questions, the ones that challenge our most basic assumptions, that can lead to the most profound insights.
It's definitely given me a lot to think about. I have a feeling I'll be seeing triangles, circles, and infinity symbols everywhere I look now.
As well you should, because this concept of transformation of a huror, it's not just some abstract theory confined to the pages of a scientific paper. It's a fundamental principle that's like woven into the very fabric of reality.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the takeaway message you hope our listeners walk away with today?
I think the biggest takeaway is just this. Never underestimate the power of asking those fundamental questions, of challenging the status quo. Because it's in those moments of questioning, of pushing beyond the boundaries of what we think we know, that we open ourselves up to a whole universe of possibilities. And who knows? We might just stumble upon a new way of understanding not only the world around us, but our place within it.
Beautifully said. It's a good reminder that the pursuit of knowledge is an ongoing journey, and that sometimes the most exciting discoveries lie in the most unexpected places. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the infinite possibilities of transformation. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.